Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campia, and this is the companion video. And every day on the John Campia Show and on Open Mic, we take live questions from you guys. However, we don't always have time to get to all those live questions. So the ones that we don't have time for on those live shows, I take those questions, I make sure that they get answered by bringing them over here to the companion video. Now, we got a whole bunch of companion video questions we got to get to this weekend. I'm going to break them up into a couple of different parts because we had a whole bunch. And let's get things started today with the first chunk of questions we're going to get to. And we're going to start off by getting caught up with Chris Parker, who writes, is it possible that Disney heard via back channels that Aquaman is being moved and decided to pounce on the opportunity? Okay, I actually addressed this very thing myself the other day on my show. So here's the situation. We've been talking about for a long time about how there's this total glut of films in a 1 7-day window in December. In a window of 7 days, we have the 8 following films opening. We have Immortal Engines. We have Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. We have Bumblebee. We have Alita Battle Angel. We have Aquaman. We have Welcome to Marwen. We have Holmes and Watson. That's the Will Ferrell, John C. Reilly comedy. And now we have Mary Poppins. See, Mary Poppins was going to be opening the following week after the 21st, but they just moved it to the same week. They just moved it to the same week as Aquaman, Bumblebee, Alita Battle Angel, and 1 week before that. So in this window of 7 days, we've got all these films opening up now. Now, one of the other things we've been talking about for a while is, I really believe Aquaman should move. I think they increase their chances for bigger box office and more success and more attention if they move out of that date. There's just too much in that 1 7-day window, just too much. So one of the theories that's been floated, and Chris, you're floating the theory now yourself, is, hey, because a lot of us are wondering, why would Disney move from being after all those films to moving to the same week of just 2 days before? Why would they do that? One possibility that does fit the current circumstances, doesn't mean it's real, that it's actually happening, doesn't mean it's true, but it does fit the current circumstances, is what if Disney did get word, either directly from Warner Brothers or indirectly, that Warner Brothers is looking to move Aquaman off that date. And that possibly made Disney think, oh, well, there's an opportunity there. Let's move back Mary Poppins by a few days and get into the mix now that Aquaman is leaving. I mean, I still don't know why you'd move into that mix, but if Aquaman was moving out of that date, it would make it more attractive. It would make it more viable to move it. I still don't think it's a good idea to move it there, but hey, it's at least more attractive to move it there without an Aquaman than it is with an Aquaman there. So again, it's a theory that does fit the current circumstances, but it doesn't mean that's the case. I believe there is a possibility that this coming week at Comic-Con, DC is going to announce they're moving Aquaman. I think there's a chance they're going to do that, and it's going to drive audiences insane. Like, they're going to say, oh, did we say we're open in December? Then the screen goes black, and October comes up, and everybody loses their minds. I know. I think they may pull a real coup like that. Probably not, but it's possible. So yes, I do think it is possible. However likely or not, I do believe it's possible that maybe the underlining trigger to get Disney to move Mary Poppins back in that week may be that they heard that Aquaman is moving. It's possible. I'm not saying it's true, but it is certainly possible. All right, let's move on here. Koba writes, favorite soccer, real football? No. Football is football. Favorite soccer movie? Come on, France. Yeah, France is playing tomorrow, I believe, in the World Cup final. So congratulations to France for getting there. Italy didn't even get in the tournament. So congratulations to France and Croatia, both playing in the finals tomorrow. I'm not big on a lot of soccer movies. And there's not an awful lot. Well, there are more soccer movies than you might think, whether it's Ladybug or that Will Ferrell comedy where he's coaching a soccer team, or whether it's Bend It Like Beckham or things like that. My two favorites are, my number one all-time favorite soccer movie is Shaolin Soccer. Now, granted, that's more of a farce and a comedy and a kung fu movie than it is a soccer movie, but it totally revolves around soccer, so I say it qualifies as a soccer movie. So yes, my all-time favorite soccer movie is Shaolin Soccer. It's made by the same guy who did Kung Fu Hustle. Stephen, I want to say his name's Stephen Chow. It might be something else. But anyway, Shaolin Soccer is awesome. If you've never seen Shaolin Soccer, look it up and watch it. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. The other soccer film that I really like is not a film that a hell of a lot of other people like, but I do. And it's an old, like, 1980, 81, 82 film with Michael Caine, Pele, Sylvester Stallone, Max von Sydow, and it's called Victory. And the basic idea is this. It's set during World War II, and the Germans decide to put on an exhibition soccer game between the Third Reich's team and a bunch of Allied POWs. So that's why you've got American and British. So it's American POWs that they have in their custody. They get them to put together a soccer team to play against the German soccer team. And it's meant to be a big propaganda play, right? That the Germans were going to crush them, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so I like it. And I know there's a bunch of people that don't like that movie. I get it. That's fine. I actually quite enjoy it. I got a big kick out of that movie. So, yeah, no pun intended, big kick. So, my favorite soccer movies are Shaolin Soccer and Victory. Those are my favorites. All right. Murray Reich writes, oldest to play a famous role again other than Indy. Well, there's a bunch, I'm sure. I'd have to think about it. Like, off the top of my head, we were just talking about Sylvester Stallone. Sylvester Stallone. Playing Rambo again, playing Rocky again. Now he's playing Rocky in a new series of films, playing the same character, same universe in the Creed film. So there's that. Arnold Schwarzenegger coming back to play the Terminator again. So there's that. What's another couple of them? I'd have to think about. Oh, well, then you're talking about Star Wars. Luke, Mark Hamill coming back to play Luke. Carrie Fisher coming back to play Leia. Billy D. Williams is coming back to play Lando, so there's that. So yeah, those are a few off the top. I'm sure there are others as well, but those are just a few off the top of my head. Centaur24 writes, I know you haven't watched the Overwatch animated shorts. You don't have to know anything about the game. Check out Dragons, The Last Bastion, and For Honor. Honor and Glory. Well invested 30 minutes. Well, I believe I watched one. There was one where you think there's this assassin attacking this building, and it turns out that the person he's there to attack is actually his own brother, and they get into some big fight. I believe I saw that one, and I thought that one was pretty cool. But you're right, I haven't watched any of the other ones. I want to start playing Overwatch. I do. My friend has been trying to convince me to start playing Overwatch. I think he may have talked me into it. So maybe once I get to like a level 100 or something in Warcraft, I might start trying Overwatch. I've played a little bit of Overwatch, but I'm not all that big on playing games with other people online, sort of thing. Like, even that's why when I play Warcraft, I mostly just do solo questing. I don't do like raids or parties, or I don't join guilds or anything like that. But I think he's talked me into jumping on board and giving it a shot. So we'll see. And you know what? I will probably end up checking out some more of these shorts. So thanks for the recommendation, Centaur. All right. Barth Revan, as opposed to Darth Revan. So how was Danny Phantom? Okay. So a bunch of people have been kept asking me, watch Danny Phantom, at least watch the opening intro song. At least watch the opening intro song. And I kept forgetting to watch the opening intro song. I have watched the opening intro song. I thought it was stupid. I didn't like it. Now it starts pretty cool. Boom, 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 boom. But then it gets in this really cheesy 80s rap thing. And it's like, actually, I'll be honest, I thought it was dumb. I know a lot of you guys love that Danny Phantom thing. I'm not crapping on you for it. Maybe the show is awesome. I never watched the show. I just watched that opening title song because you guys told me to check it out. I gotta tell you, I thought it felt like a standard throwaway late 1980s or early 1990s throwaway kind of junk. That's what it sounded and felt like to me. But I know a lot of you guys love it, and that's great if you do. It just didn't work for me, that's all. But I did finally get around to watching it. Okay, Murray Reich writes, one of the things I hated from Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom was the side character played by Justice Smith. Very poorly written, but the ending was like, WTF, huh? I gotta disagree with you. Now look, if you saw my review for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, I've got issues with Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. I think it's the next best Jurassic World movie after the original Jurassic Park, but that's not saying much because I don't think any of the Jurassic Park movies have been all that good other than the first one, obviously. But I'm going to disagree with you, Murray. I actually personally, I found Justice Smith's character, if I'm thinking of the right character, he was the nerdy science guy on Bryce Dallas Howard's team, right? If I'm thinking of the right guy. I actually thought he was one of the better written characters. I thought he brought most of the comedy to it, even though he wasn't like a slapsticky character. I thought he had some pretty funny lines. So I got some issues with Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, but I actually thought that character was actually pretty good. But hey, he didn't work for you. That's cool. I'd be curious to know why it didn't work for you. Well, I mean, up to you, it was poorly written. Okay, I get it. Yeah, I just found that a little bit surprising because to me, he was actually one of the stronger suits, I thought, to the film. But hey, that's why film's subjective. Thanks for sharing your thoughts, Murray. All right. Agent 20K writes, hey, John, can't make it to Comic-Con and interested in your panel. Well, thank you very much. You know what? Actually, I've got a picture right here. Also, for those of you who don't know, this week at Comic-Con, guys, it's the annual Masters of the Web panel, and our theme this year is starting and growing your own YouTube fandom channel, and a lot of you guys have asked me about that. How do I get started in YouTubing? How do I actually get going with it? And I want to do it about movies or TVs, the things I'm a fan of. Well, then who better to have on than a Scott Mance, president of the Los Angeles Online Film Critics Society, dude who works with people who engage with online fandom all day. That's their jobs. I got my friend Darina Orlano, who is, number one, she works at Google, so she's got a really interesting perspective on the internet as a whole, but she herself just started a YouTube channel, so she's going to be bringing a perspective of somebody just getting started. And I got a dude who helped grow one of the biggest, most prominent YouTube channels on the planet. He's the executive vice president of Fine Brothers, got over 17.5 million subscribers. My buddy, John Green. And then, of course, myself, we're all going to be on it there. So, guys, it's going to be on the Friday morning, 11 a.m. Make sure you come and join us at the Neil Morgan Auditorium at the San Diego Central Library, right over beside the Convention Center. Make sure you come join us for that. Okay. Anyway, now let's get back to your question. Enough with the plug. Possibly could you film your panel and allow us to purchase the video? Unfortunately, the answer to that is no. And it's no for two reasons. Number one, you actually have to have permission from San Diego Comic-Con to film. You didn't have to in years past, but there's a thing, and I think they've had it now for just a couple years, that if you're going to film the panel, you have to get written permission from San Diego Comic-Con to film it. I'm not really sure why they instituted that. I'm sure they've got a good reason, but I never got permission from them to do it. And the reason I never got permission from them to do it is the second reason we can't do it is I simply just don't have the resources to do that. I don't have a crew of 4 people that I can bring down, set up audio, set up multiple video cameras, blah, 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 blah. I just don't have the resources to do that. It's not as easy as we have made it look in the past. It's a tricky thing. Now, what I'm sure will happen is that somebody, like I'm sure we'll probably get 20, 40, 60 people there. So I'm sure out of those 20, 40, 60 people, I'm sure somebody will have their phone recording the thing. And I'm sure the fans who are there are allowed to do that. So don't fret. I'm sure one way or another, the video will probably make its way online one way or the other. But I'm not going to be doing it myself. I don't have the resources to do it, and I'd never acquired permission to do it. So it's going to be just for those people who are there at Comic-Con being a part of it. But thank you for your interest, Agent 20K. I appreciate that. Chris Kozin writes, do you think we'll see Anakin's ghost in Episode 9? You know what? I go back and forth on that. Generally speaking, I don't think we will. And I don't think I want to. Generally speaking. But however, you know, with the nostalgia play, with the fact that Hayden Christensen came to Star Wars Celebration and was so warmly received, which was great to see. He's a good Canadian kid. You know, whatever problems you had with the character, it wasn't his acting. It wasn't his fault. I mean, any problems you have with it came from the script and it came from George Lucas. So it was really good to see that he came to Star Wars Celebration the other year and he was so warmly received by the audience, which was great. So you see stuff like that, and you know, they brought Yoda into The Last Jedi. It's possible. Like, I still don't think so. I don't think so. If I had to put $5 down, I wouldn't bet that he's going to show up in Episode 9. However, it's... I'd put $5 on it. I wouldn't put 20. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, I'd put down $5 that he's not going to be in it. But would I put down $20 that he's not going to be in it? I don't feel that sure about it. I think it's possible. So I'll leave it at that. I don't think he will, but I do think it's a possibility. So let's just see what J.J. Abrams has in mind. Okay, next up is Brian Rogers, who writes, you ever hear of the Sisters Brothers? Yes, I have, and it looks awesome. Terrific cast. Joaquin Phoenix, Jake Gyllenhaal, John C. Reilly, Riz Ahmed from, speaking of Star Wars, he's from Rogue One. He was the pilot in Rogue One. Terrific looking cast. Western. It's got that gritty kind of feel to it. It feels like it's got a real good humor to it. It's not a comedy, but it feels like it's got a good humor underlying to it anyway. If you have not seen the trailer to it, look it up. It looks really good, and I'm quite excited for it. So once again, it's called Sisters Brothers. I think their last names, from what I gathered from the trailer, their last names are sisters, like Bobby Sisters. So they're the Sisters Brothers. And the Sisters Brothers are Joaquin Phoenix and John C. Reilly. And you got Riz Ahmed, who plays some kind of chemist who's discovered a way to more easily find gold. Because this is a Western, right? It's an easier way to find gold. It looks really fun. I can't wait to watch it. So yes, I've heard of it, and now everybody else has heard of it too. Thanks for bringing it up, Brian. Mark Forsyth writes, who has more charisma, The Rock or Will Smith? Oh, to me, that's easy. It's The Rock. That's not taking anything away from Will Smith's charisma. Will Smith has loads of charisma. A very different kind of charisma than Dwayne. Like, Will Smith has a more kind of flamboyant. I mean that in a really good way. He's got a real flamboyant kind of charisma to him, right? Dwayne The Rock Johnson's charisma, I mean, he could just smile in a room and he'll melt everybody just with a smile. I mean, I don't think we've ever seen, we've certainly have much better actors than Dwayne The Rock Johnson, but I don't think we have ever seen a performer with that pure, unwatered down, just tangible charisma that Dwayne Johnson has. I mean, it's something you're born with, and he's got it. And it's that charm and charisma that I think has really propelled his career, and rightfully so. So, I mean, Will Smith is a better actor than Dwayne Johnson. Make no mistake about it. Will Smith is a better actor than Dwayne Johnson. But if we're just talking pure, unfettered charisma, it's got to be Dwayne The Rock Johnson. It's a subjective thing. You may have a different opinion of that, which is fine. But if you're asking me, I don't think there's ever been a performer, like maybe not even Schwarzenegger himself, has had that kind of pure magnetic charisma to him like Dwayne The Rock Johnson does. So, hey, that's kind of the way I see it. All right, next up, Brandon Martin writes, my AMC was upgraded to recliners. I love them, but they take up so much room. Theaters with 300 seats were reduced to 50. Is this actually a bad move? No, it's actually a really good move, and here's why. And it's not just for AMC. I'm sure this is applicable to other theater chains as well. But I remember talking when AMC was starting. I was with AMC when they started this whole move to leather recliner, more luxury theater seating and all that kind of stuff. They started, and I don't think it went from 350. They roughly take out about 2/3 of the seats. So probably it's more like most theaters will go from like 300 seats to 110, 120 seats. So almost like almost 2/3 of the seats get removed to make room for these big, more comfortable leather recliners. So I remember when I was at AMC and I was talking with one of the big executives, and he was telling me they started with the 4 worst performing theaters in the country. They simply sat down, looked at all their hundreds and hundreds of AMC theaters, and they took the 4 worst performing theaters, the ones that got the least amount of people going to see them. And they said, these are the theaters we're going to test this in. So they went into those 4 worst theaters that they had, worst performing, least amount of people went to go see them, went to go see movies at these theaters. They did what they called the reseating. That was their term for it, reseats. Oh, that theater's a reseat. That means they went in, took out all the seats, spruced the place up a bit, put in the luxury leather recliners. Those 4 bottom lowest performing theaters in the country, within 3 months of the reseating, all went in the top 20%. All 4 that were the bottom 4, all of them went into the top 20% of the best performing theaters in the chain. Just like that. So, look, it's great if you've got a 250 seat theater, but what's the point if you're only getting 20 to 30 people in the theater to watch movies through most, like not counting Friday night and Saturday night, but what's the point? Like, great, you've got 250 seats, but like about 230 of them are empty. Let's rip out those 250 seats, put in 70 seats, and now it's sold out every night. Or now it's at like 90% capacity every night. So yeah, we had 250 seats, but we were only getting 20 or 30 people in them. Now we've got 70 seats and we're getting 60 to 70 people in them. That's much better. Sure, on a Friday night at one screening for the newest opening of the big movie, you would have sold out all 250 seats, sure. But if you go over 6 screenings a day, 7 days a week, what's performing better? And it turns out tearing out the old uncomfortable seats, putting in the plush leather recliners to give a more luxury experience for the audience, more people started going to those theaters. And another great example of that is just in my neighborhood. We have 3 AMC theaters in my neighborhood. There's the AMC Burbank 16, which is one of the biggest AMCs in the world. It's also one of the most successful, one of the busiest movie theaters in the world. Anyway, and within one block, there are 2 other dumpy little AMCs called the AMC 6 and the AMC 8. Nobody went to movies there. Nobody. Guess what? They did the reseat on the AMC 6 and the AMC 8. Now all the theaters, the 6 theaters in the AMC 6 and the 8 theaters in the AMC 8, all have luxury leather recliners. And guess what? A lot of people go to those theaters now, and they never did before. So yeah, you reduce the size of overall seats, but you increase the amount of overall people coming. So no, it's not a bad idea. It is a very, very good idea. And it has worked out. I mean, I don't know how well it's worked out for the other theater chains. I'm going to assume, though, it's working out just as well for the other theater chains as it has for AMC theaters. Because it's worked out great for AMC theaters. Okay, thanks a lot for the question, man. Let's move on. The next one comes to us from Brandon Martin, who writes, that was just the one we just did. Sorry about that. Next one comes to us from D Patience, who writes, it has been a year. Will you update Patreon levels? I don't know. Look, I like to keep the Patreon, my Patreon supporters enable me to keep the lights on. I mean, that's just the bottom line. It is my Patreon supporters who make these videos possible and make the shows possible. And I know D has been one of our Patreon supporters as well. So thank you very much, D. I appreciate all of you. But I mean, I like to keep it simple. I mean, I've seen some Patreon campaigns with some people that are really complex, and I've never really wanted to do that. And I've had a few people say, John, you should have bigger levels, but I don't know. I mean, my biggest level right now, other than the Pat Campia level, Pat Campia is the name of my dad. I created this Pat Campia level for $100 a month support, right? Just to put my dad's name on it. And I say, come on, Dad, cough it up. But really, my biggest level is our team level member. That's $15 a month. I don't feel the need to ask people for more than that. I really don't. So I feel really comfortable. Now, listen, if a bunch of you guys who are my Patreon supporters say, hey, we want new levels and we have some ideas what we could do with those, I'm open to hearing suggestions. I really am. But I just kind of feel like, look, we have a $2 level, $2 a month level, we have a $5 a month level, and we have a $15 a month level. And I really don't, I mean, it would be great to get more money, sure, but I really don't feel the need to ask for people for more than $15 a month. I think that's great. I think anybody who donates $15 a month just to support the channel out of the goodness of their heart, and of course, there are some perks too, sure, but I think that's more than enough. I just don't feel like I need to ask for more than that. Not that other people shouldn't ask for more, not at all. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying for me, I don't feel the need to ask for any more than that. I think that's great. Anybody who's given $15 a month, you're my heroes, literally. But I don't need to ask for more than that. So I've never really thought about it, D, to be honest with you, and I have no plans to. But like I said, if you and some other Patreon supporters come to me and say, hey, look, we really want some new levels, and here's some ideas for it, I'll listen to the ideas. Absolutely, I will. But thanks for bringing that up, D. I appreciate it. All right, Dave Atkins writes, run for president, John. Also, how is Mama McFilthy? Well, thank you so much. Mama McFilthy's doing better. Everything I'm hearing coming from home is all good. So thank you so much for your well wishes. As those of you know, I am not American, so I cannot run for president. I can pull an Arnold Schwarzenegger and run for governor, but I would not be able to run for president. So, and I'm sure that's the only thing that's keeping me from the presidency. So I cannot run for president because I'm a Canadian, but thank you for asking anyway. And thank you so much, Dave. Seriously, thank you for asking about my mom. I appreciate that. Dave follows that up on thoughts on Jim Jarmusch and his filmography. I'm not super familiar with his filmography. You know, it's funny that you bring him up because a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about Ghost Dog, which is a film Jim Jarmusch did with Forrest Whitaker. Now, I know he's got a couple of others. There's a number of other films he's did, like Only Lovers Left Alive. Is it Only Lovers Left Alive? It's a mix. It's something like that. And he did one with Bill Murray called I believe it's called Broken Flowers. I like the Broken Flowers one. But other than that, I have to confess, I don't know a lot of his stuff. I don't. I'm not real familiar with his stuff. He hasn't done a lot, and he certainly hasn't done much lately, if I'm remembering correctly. So I'm just not the best person to ask about my thoughts about his overall filmography. I like what I've seen, other than maybe Ghost Dog, but I haven't seen much, so I'm really the wrong guy to ask. And Dave also then follows up with, I love Microsoft Zune's music player. Zune came up on my show the other day. Underrated. You know what? I never gave it a shot. I remember I held one once, and this is at the time when like the iPod was the big thing, right? The iPod came out, revolutionized music. But now that phones do all of that, almost nobody has an iPod anymore. Why have an iPod when my phone, my Galaxy S8, my Galaxy Note 8, or is this the Note 9? No, I think it's the Note 8. This is the newest Note. Whatever the latest Note is, that's what I've got. And now that it does everything and more and holds even more songs than the old... Plus, honestly, who even has music on their phones anymore? Like, everybody's either on a Spotify. I'm a Google Play Music subscriber, so I just stream all my music. So I don't even have songs on there anymore. But I remember back when the Zune came out, it was great that there was an alternative to the iPod. I never used it. I just remember holding it once and thinking, this feels awkward to me compared to the iPod. But that was probably unfair because I didn't actually play around with it. Maybe I would have found it to be easy to use. But I knew a couple of people that had Zunes. I did. I remember I knew a couple of people that had Zunes. I don't remember them loving it, but I know... Oh, wait, I take that back. I remember one of the dudes, my buddy in Nashville, had a Zune, and he loved that thing. So I take that back. But I never had a chance to actually play with it myself. Did any of you guys have Zunes? Or were you iPod people? Let me know what you think. All right. Kevin Kamaki writes, I love you. Well, thank you so much, Kevin. I love you guys, too. Thank you so much. Julius Goodwin writes, just curious, do you think Ant-Man and the Wasp will lose a lot of money due to not opening in Europe in August due to spoilers and bootleggers? Nah. This kind of came up the other day, too. I don't think so for a couple of reasons. Number one, there's really nothing to spoil about Ant-Man and the Wasp. There's really not. The experience of that movie is just watching the movie. I could sit here in 5 minutes, tell you everything that happens in Ant-Man and the Wasp, and it's still totally worth seeing because it's seeing the movie that counts. This isn't like Infinity War where, the snap. There's not a big spoiler for Ant-Man and the Wasp. There's just not. It's all about the movie itself. It's all just about the execution of the movie and the humor of the movie. There's really not a big spoiler to give away. I'm saying, even if I explained the movie to you in 5 minutes, give you a full synopsis of the movie in 5 minutes, it's still worth seeing, and you'd still want to see it. There's no big, what's the twist in Ant-Man and the Wasp. It's just a good movie. So there's really nothing to spoil to stop you from going to go see the movie. And as far as bootlegger goes, honestly, I find most bootleggers are cheap people anyway. And most people who bootleg a movie don't go to the movies anyway, most of the time. So I really don't think it's going to be that big of an impact. I really don't. So no, I don't think, will there be an impact? Probably an impact, but I really don't think it's going to be very significant. I think Ant-Man and the Wasp was going to come in a little bit north of what the first Ant-Man movie did, and that's what it was always going to be. Whether or not it opened in the UK after the World Cup, or whether it opened when it opened in the North American market, I really don't think there's going to be much of a difference between what those two results would have been, to be honest with you. But that's just the way I see it. Good question, though, Julius. I appreciate it. All right, next one. Tyler, good name. Tyler Durden writes, what are your thoughts on the Blomkamp RoboCop written by the scribes of the original RoboCop called RoboCop Returns? This was supposed to original too. Okay, so we talked about this on the John Campea show the other day. So basically, District 9 director Neil Blomkamp, who I love District 9. I hated Chappie and Elysium, but I loved what he did with District 9. He's directing supposedly, I still have my doubts this will actually happen. He's directing a new RoboCop movie that is theoretically supposed to be a direct sequel to the original RoboCop. I have no idea why they're doing this. They just put out a RoboCop remake like in 2014, which wasn't horrible. It was actually, how did it do? Let me just double check here. RoboCop 2014, Rotten Tomatoes. How did it do? I think people kind of liked it. Yeah, it's 50%. I mean, so like half the people liked it, half the people didn't. I fell on the side of that I was one of the half of the people that liked it. Didn't love it. It wasn't great by any stretch of imagination, but I thought it was worth watching. Anyway, everybody's completely 100% divided on that. It's like half did, half didn't, whatever. But the movie only made like $200 and something million worldwide. And that was just in 2014. Is this going to make any money? I don't know. I've got my doubts. I really think it's a bad idea. I'll be honest. I think just from a business point of view, I think it's a bad idea. That, and I'm a little iffy on Neil Blomkamp right now. But then all I have to do is watch District 9 again, and I'll probably be all excited about it. But right now, I'm a little bit iffy on Neil Blomkamp as a director. I'm not against him. I'm just iffy. That's all. A little iffy. And just from a business point of view, like I said, they just put out a remake in like 2014, only made $200 something million. I just don't see why there'd be any tangible reason to believe, well, let's do this and it'll make 500. I don't know. I think it's a bad idea, and I have my doubts it'll actually happen. I do. I think this is going to become one of those movies that gets announced and then it never comes to fruition. Like Neil Blomkamp in his Aliens movie. Doing this, and then the plug gets pulled at some point. I think the plug's going to get pulled on this at some point. Now, maybe it'll happen, and if it does, we'll go see it and we'll judge it accordingly. But I just have a feeling, I just don't see the business case to be made for this. I don't see why a studio would invest $100 million into doing it. And I don't think this is going to happen. Just a guess. I'm just guessing it probably won't happen. Let's see if it does. Let's keep our eyes open on it. All right. Brody O'Connor writes, if this is an origin story for the Joker, probably talking about Joaquin Phoenix's, do you think Batman will play a factor at all, even if it's very minor? Honestly, I don't know. See, this is a question we've been asking for the last couple of days, is what are the chances, because we got 2 Joker movies in development. We got the Joaquin Phoenix Joker film that's happening outside of the DCEU, and it apparently starts shooting in September, and may even be coming out late 2019. So apparently starts shooting in just like 3 months, they start shooting this movie. Crazy. Anyway. So we got that, and we got the Jared Leto Joker movie that they said they're working on, they're developing. What are the chances, we've been asking the last couple of days, what are the chances that that Batman is in one or the other, or in both, or in neither? If they are going to start shooting this Joaquin Phoenix one in September, I feel like they would have announced who their Batman was if they're going to have a Batman in it. I have my doubts. honestly, at this point, I have my doubts. I'm not saying they're not going to have Batman. I think there's a pretty solid chance that Batman will be in there, but I have my doubts about that. I feel like this is not going to be a traditional superhero movie by any stretch of the imagination. Hearing them talking about this project, it sounds very much like it's going to be just a down and gritty character study of a movie. And would having Batman in that defeat the purpose? It might. So, look, I'm certainly not going to say that Batman's not going to be there. But I have serious doubts that they will. And I kind of feel like we would have heard who Batman was going to be at this point, but maybe not. Who knows? We'll have to see. Right now, my guess, and it's only a guess, my guess is that we're not going to see Batman in this Joaquin Phoenix movie. Might hear of him. They might say the word Batman at some point in it, but I don't think we're going to see Batman in it. I just don't think. Could be wrong. Let's see what happens. A lot of big question marks surrounding this project. A lot of them. All right. Maurice Cook writes, "Hey, John, in the G.I. Joe movie, they kill Duke in the movie. Same reason like Transformers movie kill Prime. Well, the difference, though, is that in the Transformers movie, they didn't just kill Prime. I could have totally lived with, even as somebody who worshipped Optimus Prime, I totally could have lived with that, with them killing Prime. I would have been fine with that if it was for a good dramatic purpose. And the scene that Optimus Prime dies is awesome. Talk about, it doesn't matter, he's one of my favorite characters. They killed him in a blaze of glory in a big epic battle with Megatron. One shall stand, one shall fall. And he beats Megatron, but dies as a result of it. Awesome death. Awesome death. Yes, it would hurt my feelings still that my favorite character is dying, but fine. I would have been okay with it because it was an awesome death with narrative purpose and a big blaze of glory. Loved it. The problem wasn't the death of Optimus Prime. The problem was Hasbro gave the big double effers to all of the fans by killing off every single Transformer in 10 minutes. That entire movie's purpose was, "Aw, kids, you know how you've been collecting our toys for years? Thank you so much for that. We're all dead. We're killing them all. Now you got to go out and buy all the new toys. Look, guys, it's Cup. Who the fuck is Cup? He's your new favorite Transformer now. I've never even heard of him." "Well, you heard of him now, but I like the other Transformers." "Tough, we killed all the other Transformers. Get over it, kid." I mean, that's basically what Hasbro did. Gotta be a little bit careful. My wife works at Hasbro. But that's what Hasbro did. They gave the sweet double effers to all the kids and all of us who grew up loving the Transformers by not just killing our favorite hero. That's fine. I can get over that. They killed them all. And basically said, and this was the whole purpose of that Transformers movie was, "Hey kids, all those Transformers are dead now. You might as well throw those toys away. Come buy all the new one. Look how cool Ultra Magnus is. He's a cheap Optimus knockoff." No, he's Ultra Magnus. You don't like Ultra Magnus? Look, we got Rodimus Prime. Look, we've got Cup. Look, we've got, And if I remember the animated G.I. Joe film, and I'm struggling to, they may have killed off one or two people, but they didn't wholesale wipe everybody out. And that's what they did with the Transformers. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not remembering the G.I. Joe movie right. Maybe they did do that. But that was the problem. The problem wasn't that they killed Optimus Prime. The problem was that they gave the big, sweet double effers to all of us and said, "We're just killing them all your favorite guys. These toys, these characters you've been watching in the cartoons for years, you've been buying their toys, you've been supporting us, blah, blah, blah. Yep, all dead. All of them. Every single frickin' one of them. And by the way, we're going to kill off a whole bunch of them without even giving them one line of dialogue in the movie." I think Ratchet and Wheeljack, they didn't even have a single line. They just looked over as dudes came in, pew, pew, shot them, blah, and they died. Frickin' Wheeljack! Ratchet, I've been watching you guys for years, blah, blah. Not even a single line. Just show, Prowl didn't get a single line. Sunstreaker didn't get a single line. They all just boom, 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 you're dead. Sorry. Doesn't matter how many times about that. I get worked up and mad about that. It pisses me off. Silly Billy writes, "I love you too, John." Well, apparently, Kamaki's not the only one. Thank you so much, Silly Billy. Luna Comics writes, You described only assholes care about family and not half the planet. I feel Deadpool would only care about his wife or kids if they were involved. If his wife or kid were involved. He's not a hero. He's not. Oh, you're wrong. I definitely disagree with you, Luna. So here's where this comes from. The other day we had this discussion on the show. I'm starting to sweat. It's warm in here. It's like 92 degrees outside. Anyway, we had this discussion the other day about why some people feel like, oh, well, Hawkeye, we were talking about Hawkeye. Hawkeye's family has to have died or else he won't have any motivation for Avengers 4. And we're like, what are you talking about? Half the planet died. Of course he has motivation. Like, if Hawkeye just heard that a school bus full of children might die if he doesn't do something, that's enough motivation for him as a hero to get involved. Forget one school bus full of children. 500 million school buses filled with children are going to die and have died unless they do something about it. That's all the motivation. He doesn't need one of his family members to die for him to be motivated when half the world dies. And that was the point. Now with Deadpool, I think Deadpool 2 pretty much proves that he would. He goes down to get involved and he runs into a kid. And suddenly, he's all about saving that kid. I'm telling you what, if you tell Deadpool even talks about the fact that he had to save a bus full of children at the beginning, right? If Deadpool found out there was a bus full of children in danger, Deadpool would go to save a bus full of children. That's what Deadpool would do. At least the movie version of Deadpool. He wouldn't need his own girl to die in order to be motivated. That would give him a ton of motivation. But we've also seen him get motivated on other things too. So I think, he is certainly more anti-hero than a Hawkeye is. But yes, saving half the planet, half the children of the world just died. He would do something about it. And because he put his life on the line just to save one kid in Deadpool 2. So I think he would. All right. Jose Z writes, hey John, what do you think of a reboot of Dragon Ball live action movie? You think it would work? Dragon Ball Evolution sucked. No, it wouldn't work. Look, I don't know how many times they have to do something. The North American average movie-going audience does not care about anime property. I'm not saying it's not good. I'm not saying there isn't great stuff, but I'm sorry, it's the truth. The average moviegoer in North America do not care. They don't go out and support it. Like we even had Ghost in the Shell, one of the most classic stories out there with one of the biggest, probably maybe the biggest, female star in the world with Scarlett Johansson, and still nobody went to go see it. And no, it wasn't because of any whitewashing controversy. It was because nobody cared. There is just not enough of an audience to support it. And I don't know how many times movies, and look, a number of attempts have come out, and every time people make excuses why they didn't. Oh, they just didn't like it because that was a bad film. Oh, they just didn't come see it because of this. Oh, they didn't come to see that one because of that. Look, just call it what it is. The common denominator is the average North American movie-going audience, and this is no way a reflection on the quality of the material. I'm just saying the average North American movie-going audience member does not care about that stuff. So, no, I honestly, if I was the head of a studio, unless you came to me with a budget of like $10 million, if I'm the head of a studio, I do not greenlight a Dragon Ball live action movie. It's just not going to succeed. I mean, let me just pull up something here, just to make a point. So, Dragon Ball, Rotten Tomatoes. Okay, so, Dragon Ball came out in 2009, and it's a bad movie. Okay. Oop, I looked up the wrong thing here. Sorry. Dragon Ball Evolution box office. All right. But here's the thing. Yes, it's a bad movie, but nobody knows it's a bad movie until opening weekend, till after people start seeing it, right? You know how many people went to go see Dragon Ball opening weekend? By the way, you have to go opening weekend before the word of mouth can get around about how good or how bad a movie is. You know how many people went to go see it opening weekend? Less than $5 million worth. Less than $5 million worth. It opened in 2,181 theaters and made less than $5 million opening weekend. And that was before word of mouth could get out that the Dragon Ball fans didn't like it. because they had to go opening weekend to see if they liked it. And only less than $5 million on the movie, $4.7 million opening weekend. If the movie had been great, maybe it would have been a $10 million opening weekend, maybe. But again, it's not until people go to see it on opening weekend that word of mouth starts to spread about whether it was good or bad. Opening weekend comes, nobody's seen it yet except critics, but a lot of the diehard fans aren't going to care what the critics are going to say. So, and what happened? $4.7 million. I mean, so not why? Why would any student, and again, I'm not bad-mouthing the property of Dragon Ball. I'm in no way making any commentary on the level of quality of the product. If you're a big Dragon Ball fan, that's great. All I'm saying is there's not enough people out there to justify some studio head to go, yeah, I'll invest $75 million and another $60 million on top of that for marketing and stuff. There's just, it's a lose situation. So honestly, no, I don't think you're going to see another person. You're not going to see a major Hollywood studio. Let's put it that way. I do not think you're going to see a major Hollywood studio take a gamble on something like that in the next 3, 4, 5 years. Maybe after that, that'll change. But right now, I just don't think it's a possibility. And if you were a studio head and if I were a studio head and it was our money, we wouldn't allow it to be invested in that. Not when the last one opened to $5 million. Just can't happen. Anyway. Let's move on here. Next one comes us from Kevin Brown, who writes, one of the more piss-poor storytelling points in Star Wars is the First Order, our terrible villains. They aren't scary or intimidating. Compared to the First Order to the OG Empire, Empire was far more intimidating and ruthless. I disagree. The original, because really, when you're talking about the original Empire, really you're talking about two people, Grand Moff Tarkin and Vader. That's it. Yeah, you had to wait until Return of the Jedi before we really even saw the Emperor. Vader, bar none, king of the villains. That's beyond question. Tarkin was awesome and just, there's something so powerful about him because of his subtlety. And so there's that too. Is Vader better than Kylo Ren? Absolutely. Is Grand Moff Tarkin superior to General Hux? Absolutely. That's beyond question. But the Snoke thing, I remember in The Force Awakens, a lot of people really dug the Snoke appearance. A lot of people really like Kylo Ren. I like Hux. I didn't like the way they used him in The Last Jedi, but I liked Hux in The Force Awakens. I disagree. I do not believe they are piss poor. I don't agree with you. I think they were actually pretty good. As good as Vader and Tarkin? No. But that's kind of an unrealistic bar. That's just because they're not as good as Vader and Tarkin doesn't mean there's no value there. I think there was value there. And I didn't like what they did with Hux in The Last Jedi. They turned him too much into a bumbling comedic relief character, and I didn't like that. But I think Kylo's a good character. I think Snoke was a good character. I think they're good. So I'm going to disagree with you on that. I mean, you and I could probably talk about other issues that we'll agree on as far as drawbacks and negatives in this current incarnation of Star Wars. But honestly, I think the First Order is pretty good. Nowhere near as good. We will agree. Nowhere near as good as the OG Empire. No way. But I still think they have value there. Let's see. Brian Esparza writes, DC TV's Adam or MCU's Ant-Man? Love the show. Oh, easy Ant-Man. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Brendan Routh. I'm a big fan of Brendan Routh. I think he's wonderful. I'm a big fan. I loved him as Superman, and I like him a lot as Ant-Man. He's one of the only reasons I kept watching Legends of Tomorrow was because of him. He's great. But Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, far better. Far better. And that is no knock on Brandon Routh or Adam as he is in Legends of Tomorrow. No knock at him at all. I like that. Again, he's the only reason I've kept watching Legends of Tomorrow. But yeah, Ant-Man. Paul Rudd's Ant-Man, easily better. And remember, you're saying DC TVs and the MCUs. You're not talking about the comic book characters. You're talking about the DC TV character and the MCU character. And I just think Ant-Man easily by a mile. Patrick Conway writes, do you think Roker will cameo in Mary Poppins? No, I do not. I know a lot of people just because the whole Mary Poppins y'all line. No, you're not going to see Michael Roker in Mary Poppins. I don't see it happening. Now watch, they do slip it in, which would be hilarious if they did. But no, I don't see that happening. Brian Esparza writes, Injustice games have made me hate Aquaman, to be honest. I had completely the opposite reaction to you. I used to hate Aquaman. And I just thought he was a stupid character. And then a bunch of you guys finally convinced me to start reading New 52 Aquaman. And I started reading New 52 Aquaman, and I started to develop an appreciation for the character. And then the Injustice 1 and 2 came out, and I really got into the character. So that's unfortunate, Brian, that your experience with Injustice 1 and 2 made you hate Aquaman. It was actually the complete opposite for me. Injustice 1 and 2 were actually things that got me into the character of Aquaman in the first place. So we've had different experiences that way. All right. Let's see. Next up, DeBliz Station writes, "Hey, John. Did you see the report that The Rock's Black Adam isn't appearing in Shazam? Is this a good evidence that he's out for good?" We talked about that on the John Campus show the other day. So for those of you who didn't hear, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, while doing press for Skyscraper, confirmed that Black Adam is not, because there were some rumors going around that we were at least going to see a Black Adam cameo. And The Rock put that to rest. He said, no, that's not happening. Is that a good sign that he's out? No, because in that same interview, he emphasized that Black Adam is still going to happen, that we're going to get a Black Adam movie. He keeps saying that. Now, of course, they announced Dwayne Johnson as Black Adam 4 years ago, and we still have nothing on a Black Adam movie. It would have made sense to cameo him in Shazam, but for their reasons, they decided not to. That's fine. I have my doubts that we're ever going to see Dwayne Johnson as Black Adam. But no, I don't think him saying that he's not going to cameo in Shazam is by any means any kind of a definitive statement that we're never going to, that Dwayne The Rock Johnson is done as Black Adam. I don't take that as any sort of a definitive statement whatsoever. I think it is still possible. Dwayne Johnson is still saying he's going to do it. So until he says he ain't, I don't think we can say that it is now proof that he's not doing it. Yeah, so I don't think we can say that quite yet. All right, and the last two questions of the day. This one comes to us from Darth Impact, who writes, "Hey, John, if Glass," that's the sequel to Unbreakable and Split, "if Glass is a huge hit with critics, fans, and the box office, is Shamhammer officially out of the doghouse?" Good question. So M. Night Shyamalan, of course, M. Night Shyamalan, I call him the Shamhammer. That's my term of endearment for him. The Shamhammer has been in the doghouse with the movie-going audience for a long time. His name became a laughingstock. I told this story the other day, but I remember being in a theater, and a trailer for Devil came up, and and one of the credits came on screens during the trailer, from producer M. Night Shyamalan, and I kid you not, the audience laughed. That's how bad it got. It got to the point that his name made people laugh. Because he had quite a shit streak. You know, you can be on a hot streak, and he was on a hot streak at one time, then he went on a total shit streak. Lady in the Water is one of the worst motion pictures ever made. Like, ever. Like, I have my holy trinity of Catwoman, Highlander 2, and Battlefield Earth as the three worst wide-release major studio pictures ever made in Hollywood. If I created a fourth spot, Lady in the Water might be up there. It's like complete abysmal vomit. It's just one of the most awful films ever made. Anyway. And then I know a lot of people who hate other movies of his even more. So it got laughable. But what's happened recently? He did The Visit, which is a nice little movie. Not a spectacular movie, not a movie we'll be talking about 20 years from now, but you know what? It was a nice little movie. Then he did Split, and was even better than The Visit. Now he's got Glass coming, a follow-up to one of his best films, Unbreakable, and one of his other best films, Split, with Glass. I'm going to say this. If Glass can be a big hit, Shamhammer's back. Now, I don't think, he's not the next Spielberg. Remember that stupid magazine cover with him on the cover? It's like, I think it was Time Magazine put M. Night Shyamalan on the cover with the words, "the next Spielberg." And it's like, okay, no, we're not back to that. But I think the laughingstock days will be over. If he does great with Glass, that'll be 3 wins in a row. That's a winning streak. That's a pattern. That's a trend. He'll be on a winning trend. So yeah, I think if Glass works with the critics, the audience, and the box office, that'll make 3 films in a row that you can count as wins. That's a hot streak. And while we may not be back to M. Night's the greatest thing since Spielberg, no, we'll never be back to that. But the days of his name being laughable, those days will be over. Yeah, I think those days are over. So, yeah, I'll say he's not back to glory, but he will be out. I think if this does well, I think The Last Airbender, the stupid movie about the trees coming to life, Lady in the Water, whatever those other movies, I think those will be forgiven. And I think we'll be back to a clean slate with them. So, fingers crossed. All right. Last question of the day comes to us from Rami J. Royster, who writes, Bumblebee could be the best Transformers film. Oh, it could be. I mean, it could also be the worst. It could be the greatest film of all time. It could be better than Star Wars. It could be better than Lord of the Rings. It could be better than The Godfather. It could be. We got to be careful whenever we use words like, is it possible? Well, almost 99% of the time, the answer is yes, it's possible, however unlikely. Could it be the best Transformers movie? Sure. It really only has one movie. I mean, it can't be any worse than Transformers 2 through 6, or 2 through, however many of them there are. They're all garbage other than the first one. The only movie it has to beat, really, is that first Transformers movie. And I unapologetically really love the first Transformers movie. I really love the first one. All the rest of them have been steaming garbage, but that first one, I will defend it. I think Michael Bay did a real good job on that first one, and I like it a lot. So, could Bumblebee be the best Transformers movie? Well, it's only got one movie to beat. Could it be better than that one? It could. It's going to be hard because I think that first one's really good. But one of the things, and the main thing it's got going for it, is that the director of Kubo and the Two Strings, Travis Knight, is directing it. That's pretty damn good. That is your biggest chance of Bumblebee. It's not that John Cena is starring it. That's not your... John Cena may do fine in it. I'm just saying, you don't count on this one being the best Transformers movie ever because John Cena's in it. But where you do get that hope from, where you do get that possibility from, is the fact that Travis Knight, the director of Kubo and the Two Strings, is directing this film. That's the chance it has at being better than the original Transformers. So we'll have to wait and see. The first trailer came out pretty good, so now we'll just have to see where it's only... Now, is anybody going to go to see it because it's opening in the same window of time as all those other movies? That's another question. But it might be the best Transformers movie yet. We'll have to wait and see. All right, guys, that will do it for me for this installment of the companion video. Thanks so much for joining me. We got more companion videos coming over the weekend. Make sure you come back and join us. That'll do it for me, guys. Thanks so much for being here. My name's John Campia, and until the next video, bye-bye.